Welcome to Common Hood. This your host, Simon P., and I got my business partner, Nee, joining us today. He came from behind the scenes to say, I got to help you out, OG.
We here.
We here today, man. I appreciate you so much coming with a brother because I've been gone in South Africa for a minute, but I'm back. And coming back, we coming with a way saying that Trump has introduced the idea last week of a 50-year mortgage. It's real simple. Is it full of shit? Or it's good for the people?
It depends on which people.
Well, let's just start with the customer.
So you want to take it from the buyer's perspective first, and then maybe we touch on the seller.
Yeah, the seller, we got the investors. We hit all three. Then I like to go into the pros and cons of owning the mortgage versus renting.
Okay. All right. Let's start from the buyer's end. All right. So, many people forget that there is a thing called a 15-year mortgage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oftentimes people don't take advantage of the 15-year mortgage because they're not necessarily looking for the lowest rate, but they're looking for the lowest payment. Because people are looking at, okay, what can I afford month to month, not looking at long term, what am I going to be able to afford or how much equity that I'm going to be able to build. And for me, it kind of boils down to when you're looking at housing, and I would say that it changes depending on your situation and what stage of life you're in. But for housing, when I think of it, there's two aspects. One is generally one of your biggest costs of living, housing and food, right? And then secondly, talking about buying a house, either it's an asset or a liability. And depending on how you purchased it, how you got into the deal or got into the house, that determines whether or not it was an asset or if it was a liability. And then once again, you would use the right product to reinforce that for you. So say, for example, if you're just trying to go from the perspective of my cost of living is my biggest expense right now, and I see how rents are going up year after year, I want to be able to lock in this cost of living. That way I can be able to, stretch my dollar a little bit more, be able to have a little bit more month left, a little bit more money left out of the month, because most people, they have more month than they have money.
Oh, yeah. That's America right now.
Yeah. So for them, I would say, it makes sense to let me get because we just talked about the 15 and 30, and then we'll talk about the proposed 50, right? Says, okay, instead of me having the 15-year mortgage, even though I may get a better rate, the payment's so much more that I would rather get the 30-year. It makes it more affordable for me for those monthly payments. That's going to be around the same cost or lower than what I'm going to be paying in rent, depending on where you stay in the country. And so then I'm able to make sure that I'm meeting, ends are meeting by the end of the month, is where most people, I would see them at. And at that level, to be clear, that is still a liability. That's not an asset. Your house is not an asset at that point.
But the way the 50-year mortgage is sold, and could be the advantage to the new customer that's wanting to purchase a home, is they're getting so fixated on the monthly payment, as you mentioned. So it's like you say, they have the option of a 15-year and a 30-year, and they normally take the 30-year because it's cheaper on the monthly expense. But that stretches that 30-year out as well. So you're not, the way mortgages work is they kind of front loaded. So that means it's the average person, as you mentioned through the week, that the average person only keeps a home for 7 years. That means where's the asset with that? Because all you did was paid interest the whole time and hopes and prayers that what you thought was an asset will go up in value. So what I don't like about the 50-year mortgage for a new customer buying, is don't get hoodwinked again. Understand your purchase, as you mentioned, whether it's an asset or a liability. And if you can have the fixed rate of cost, we'll get into that. But it's like they're lowering that fixed rate, but yet the homes are higher. That's what's scary. They're adding another 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. Who want to have a 50-year slavery?
Here's
So the bank.
Here's the other part that you got to add to that for clarity. They added additional 20 years to the loan, but you're also talking that you're battling inflation and you're battling just general pricing. Because once again, as you just made it more accessible for buyers to come into the market, right? You understand supply and demand. If there's more buyers in the market, just that alone, I can raise the value of my house as far as how much I can sell it for because of price and demand, because now you've made it more accessible, where it strings back to the other one. Like when there are less people in the market who can afford to buy certain homes, those home prices have to come down to meet what those people are willing to pay for those homes. That's how that works. So that's the other part of it. It's not just stretching it another 20 years. It's like you're still going to pay a premium soon because of supply and demand. And so that goes back to, I guess, what my main point is. Regardless if you're talking about a 15, a 30, or a 50-year mortgage, we have to go back. Do you understand basic economics? And I guarantee you did not learn it from K through 12th grade. So hopefully somebody taught you. Hopefully you have access to. I would highly suggest going to talk to a mortgage originator or a loan person that can talk to you about what this looks like specifically for you and educate you on that and be able to make the best decision for you. Because once again, just taking general advice, not knowing your situation, you may be taking the wrong advice for you being the wrong person for that advice.
Well, you getting general advice because the real estate person is concerned about making the sale.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said go to the mortgage lender,
right?
Because they're gonna be able to say, it's okay based on your situation. And given they're there to make a sale too.
They're gonna make their sale as well. Too.
But
there's a lot of hands in the pot.
Yeah.
On a real estate transaction.
Yeah. But they will be. They're going to at least help you understand what's going to be obtainable for you, what's in reach, right? So because that's where it starts at, what are you going to be able to be approved for, and then be able to look at your debt to income ratio and other factors and look at more of a picture than the road to wood, right? And says, hey, based on where you are, here's where, and hopefully if you're dealing with someone who is genuine, true, and has integrity, they would just simply tell you, based on where you are, Simon, you are pre-approved or you're qualified for a $500,000 loan. I will say you did mention that your wife was working, now she's pregnant, you're not really sure, because it's with both of you. Maybe you consider, instead of buying the 500, maybe you should stay within the range of 350, because just in case your wife's income drops.
They took out something called life management skills in school back in the day. So life management skills will focus on revising your spending patterns. That alone would not be done by a banker. Only thing they want to see is there enough meat on the bone left to pay? They don't care about the variables of life. So teaching one to revise their patterns to fit the mortgage is something that a consumer going to have to do. And I just recommend for a consumer that though this sounds good, it'll get the inventory moving, it'll get houses off the ground where the market get hot again, because it's not hot. So I could understand the idea, but what I don't understand is everybody was going to get caught and fixed on the rent portion of it, on the cost, not the actual cost of the home. Mm-hmm. So we was promised by Trump that when he is elected, that things would go down. Mm-hmm. Well, it hasn't happened yet, at least in his first year. Now we still have time remaining in his current candidacy, but we just don't know. So I think it may be a disadvantage to go to the 50-year mortgage. And back to your question of just knowing the basic of economics, is very true. Understand that when you make that purchase with all the liabilities you have to a home, will this be an asset now? Will this be a liability? And you have to address, do you plan on making this your permanent fixture? Which I think will help you decide if this is going to be an asset or a short-term investment, or this to control, as you say, your monetary fixed rate for housing.
Well, I will say on the flip end, because we talked about it depends on the situation. Mm-hmm. So for the average person who's going from renting to owning a home, depending on the situation, right, the 50-year mortgage may not be the best for you, considering the variables in there. But on the other side, if we talk about you're an investor, hey, 50-year mortgage makes a whole lot of sense, because I'm not going to hold it that long anyways. None of those variables that we talked about before, because I understand the economics and this is just an asset for me. It's other people's money at this point.
It's other people's money,
and I get to hold it. I get to hold it for longer, and not at a exorbitant interest rate. So once again, the time value of money, I get to capitalize on that, because a lot of times that's another thing that a person who doesn't understand the basic economics, they don't understand the time value of money, which basically means $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So if I'm able to spend your dollar instead of my dollar today, then I get more time value out of my dollar that way. So it will make more sense for me as an investor to take advantage of every type of loan that's going to allow me to use other people's money and to be able to leverage while I can hold either liquid or in assets my own money. That way I can be able to once again leverage in different ways and be able to build up my wealth.
Well, that's another scary point of creating this. So from a seller's point of view, this definitely create more buyers to come to the market. So for the seller, this is happy. But from an investor's point of view and versus the normal consumer, that's a scary part of me. Again, I don't want institutional investors coming in hogging up all the equity. That's what's scary with me with this. For those that really have money, and we're dealing with an economy where we're saying that the middle class is wiped the F out, that they're gone. And whoever that's left is just trying to hold it on. That if they create that 50-year mortgage where the amortization makes it cheaper for that investor, how much more are they going to be hogging up?
Here's the other part of it.
With the institution investing, that's what's scaring me. So where is equity really going with these 50-year mortgages? With the investors or the buyers? That's what's scary with me with it.
I got a better one for you. I got a better one for you.
Go ahead.
Hey, you let me know if we can call him out.
Call them out.
There's a brother. There's a brother. It might be my brother. It might be your brother.
Uh-huh.
But there's a brother. Hey, when you build houses, once the 50-year mortgage comes out, will the houses be more affordable or will the price go up?
The price going to go up. That's already in there. It's not going to adjust the price. And it's going back to the thing of inflation. So that's why a buyer has to be astute, not just on what's their fixed monthly cost.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to what you actually paying for that house.
Yeah. But it goes back to the basic concept for a person who doesn't understand economics, right? It says, okay, well, houses, median price of house, $285 in Gainesville, right? That may not actually be I don't know where it is right now.
That's on a low average.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's say it's $285, right? And we says, okay, based on $285, 30-year mortgage, okay, 50-year mortgage comes out, the house is still $285. Nobody. That ain't how that works, right? And then when you start building new construction, all those things are taken into consideration because now, once again, I'm going to add that premium on top of it too, where I understand, hey, now the bank will loan you more because of the time. So why in the world would I sell it to you for less? Because once again, economically, that doesn't make a lot of sense for me. So once again, we talk about the benefits. I think of it this way, in the grand scheme of things, for the economy, maybe it's a great thing.
Get stuff to moving.
Yeah, maybe it's a great thing. For the individual who is being part of the feeder system, once again,
not a good thing.
Yeah, but it's like credit cards, right? Credit cards, everybody knows on average where you're talking about 20, 30% that they're charging you. You ain't never going to beat the market at that point. I don't care if you put an S&P 500 up. So it goes back to, as a product for the consumer, it is a terrible thing. There's probably not a worse product for a person to get into debt and stay into debt. Because once you get into debt and you have a 30% interest rate, come on, man, you ain't getting out of it. And you're in a cycle. But for all the businesses that it helps, right? Because they swipe that card at Publix, they swipe a card at Walmart, they swipe a card here. All those businesses, it did stimulate the economy because they were using dollars that were borrowed.
Well, once again, you got to control your need for banking. So credit card is just an example that you use. But when you're talking about the amount of interest you transfer to banks, being that banks give a front load, that's the economic decision that you have to make a decision on. And I guess early this week when we were briefing this, you said that, okay, if I take the 50-year mortgage, what will you do with the difference of the money? What are your options? And that's when it's not basic economics at this point.
No.
You have to learn how to become an investor. Yeah. When I think about the investors in this particular instance, if they do this 50-year mortgage, it's like if we already crying about the middle class is getting wiped out now, I think this may be even more detrimental because bigger investors going to be able to consume more. Nobody can control the behavior of somebody saying, I made $1 million. I can make it again. I can make it again because the tax code really benefit those investors that holds a nice portfolio of real estate because of all the benefactors of depreciation that the government gives that makes sense to have it. And then the banks work well with them. So when you have an appreciation asset like a home, if they appreciate in cost, I can imagine the amount of money that's going to be refinanced from investors taken away, stealing all that equity and still selling the house at that high premium to that lower vessel, which is the customer, which is going to get hammered, in my opinion. So getting the financial literacy to understand if this house is an asset and a liability is very important. But we've been taught and conditioned that the house is an asset. So I'm gonna go now from getting off the customer and the seller and the investor. Let's just talk about the liabilities of a home ownership that they don't talk about.
Well, before you segue into that, let's give the audience a little bit of value. You tell me what you think about this advice. How I look at it is with most changes in the market, for that average person, you simply don't understand the rules of the game. And that's why you're going to lose, because you playing a game that you don't understand. You don't understand the rules.
And most of us are.
Yeah. So what I would suggest, right, is, and this is just one method. You can find whatever method. This is what came top of my head. If I was in a position where I didn't understand economics, finances, housing, markets, any of that stuff that we're talking about today, this seems very foreign to me. I'm that person listening to this. I would make a list of probably 5 people. I want to, in my city, find the number one accessible banker or mortgage lender to start having a conversation with. I want to find the number one construction person or builder, like locally, not the DR Hortons, like not those big guys, but somebody who, they're putting up homes, have a conversation with them. I want to find a good realtor. I want to have a conversation with them. Most places have some kind of HUD or housing development organization, have a conversation with them, and then be able to understand from all of their perspectives, hey, what does a 50-year mortgage really means? Because you're going to get a different answer from every single one of them. But if you're able to put all the pieces together, then you begin to see the picture and the puzzle. You can understand how the game is played. Because if you don't understand, because once again, for me, I can understand from a plethora of areas. Being a person who's a licensed realtor, I've bought properties, I've sold properties, right? I've dealt with mortgages, I've dealt with loan officers, I've dealt with builders, I've done all these things, so I understand from every aspect the bigger picture, and I can see how the game is played out depending on what piece you are on the board. But if you don't even understand how the game is played, I would highly suggest, because once again, what I said, the person in the top 5, right, we'll just take the realtor. The person in the top 5, if you go to them and you start with having that question, one, because they value their brand, they're going to give you accurate information. Right, they're going to give you their honest opinion. It won't be because of a sale, because you can clearly say, hey, I'm not even in a position to sell. I'm just trying to understand. That top 5 person, they understand the value of building relationships. So they will put you into their system and says, hey, if I'll educate you and I'll train you today, you know what, I can get you in a position where 2, 3, 5 years from now, you'll be in a position to buy. And then that person, most likely, if you talk to the top real estate agent, they're going to know the top mortgage broker, right?
Absolutely.
And so they're going to know the top builder. So then you can say, hey, do you know a good builder that I can talk to? Do you know this person? And they're going to put you in connection with those people. Like I said, you run that same play and you're able to take notes from each one of those meetings. Say, hey, I'll take you out to lunch. I'll take you out to coffee. You run that play, you're going to better understand how the game is played and then understand what piece you have on the board. So that's what I'll leave people with. That's my advice, and we can segue.
And piggybacking on that, just to add, when you're saying putting your team together, essentially is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And when I look at the team, you mentioned HUD. So that's working with your local city government to go down and see what type of first-time home buyers could help you with the down payments to help bring down that cost. And when you're working with your mortgage person and your banker, so I look at them as 2 separate people. My banker, I think you have to make them get a revised spending to know, do you have enough meat on your bone for his income, that what you see with my 3 statements of how I'm spending my money to revise spending for emergencies, because you're responsible for your house, and we're going to get back on that. But the most important thing is you got to pay attention to your interest rate.
Yeah.
And when banks giving a front end where the first 7 to 15 years, they get so much of that equity, that's the one that you have to pay attention to help you determine, do I really want this house? All my money that I'm paying going towards interest only, that I'm going to start paying on my house to year 15 before I start before I even start seeing a dent and the principal. And the principal is that mortgage amount. And these mortgage amounts they're not going down.
Yeah. Well, in a past life, you sold cars, right?
Sold cars, sold houses.
Let me ask
Did a little bit of it all.
Let me ask you, in your experience and what you know about people's tendencies, did people ask you what the interest rate was, or did they ask you what the payment was?
That's the condition that we said at the beginning. Don't get fixated just on the payment. You must understand the interest amount you're giving up to make a decision that's a wise choice economically.
But it goes back to, because you say you have to understand it, but that goes back to kind of the principle of economics. If you think about it, why do they ask how much is the payment? Because they think that that's the most important piece of information that they need to know in order to make a decision. For you, it says, no, the most important information you know is the interest rate. But it goes back to, if they're not asking for the interest rate, maybe they don't understand what the interest rate is and how it affects the payment and how much money you're really spending. So back to your point, I really want to drive that home for people. It's like, it's not just some random weird number out there in the ether. No, like, it's a very important number. So
how that more you transfer to that bank.
Ask the question. Understand. Start to learn. Right. What is an interest rate? How does it affect everything else that's going into the loan that I'm getting, and how much am I going to end up paying based on the interest rate? Right. And you can ask those questions to whoever it is that you're doing the transaction with. Hey, help me understand how this interest rate affects this. Right. So then you can understand that it's more than just the payment. Because even with that, right, like, we ain't even talk about property tax. We ain't talk about insurance. You ain't put down to 20%. So you got PMI insurance. You have all these other things that's going to go into the actual cost monthly. But you're got so much that's, I think of it as like behind the closed doors, that interest rate that's going to really be the killer. It sneaks right up on you. It's like you stuck with it once you sign that dotted line.
And one of the things, adding to your team before we transition over to the negatives of owning versus renting, the insurance agent. And I'm not talking about a life insurance agent. Yep. I'm talking about a property and casualty, your Allstate and State Farm, for you to understand what mechanics of your house that the insurance company want to make sure you can keep up. Because that's one of the negatives that we're going to get into. So that's another part of your team that you have. So and naming your team, how I rank them is, to me, the banker, to me, and the mortgage originator are very important. The banker, I want them to revise my spending and see if I have enough meat on the bone and what variables of life I need to adjust to see if it's affordable. Realtors, I love realtors, but at the end of the day, if the bank approve it, he's going to say, congratulations to your new home. Here's your headache. That's just what it is. So you do need a team, and this basic education of learning, it's not in our school system, unfortunately.
You got to go out and search it, though.
Unfortunately, you got to go out and search it. So hopefully there are information given out that you seek on the team that you mentioned will be allotted to. Now transition over to the positive of being a renter. If you had to make that choice today.
So I'm because we're talking about some of the challenges you have with home ownership. There's another very important, because I love what you mentioned, the insurance agent. Very important. Another very important person to have on your team is a home inspector. Because you want to know what you're getting into before you get into that home. Right. So, because once again, if you look at.
Oh, you were saying the construction. I think that was in the.
Even with new construction, you need a home inspector.
Oh,
come on.
Yeah. You know, even with new construction, here's the thing. You have a city worker coming in doing phases. For the most largest asset acquisition one would ever make, the freaking builder only on the hook for 1 year. You know how shameful it is to go into something to repair, and they say, oh, yeah, whoever did this behind the walls wasn't messed up.
And you're in the honeymoon phase the first year.
Yeah.
You ain't noticing any of the stuff. But once again, the home inspector ain't no honeymoon phase for him. Like, his or her whole job is, I need to find every single problem with this. And so, and hopefully with new construction, you're able to get that builder to be able to fix those things before you get into it.
And with land sucking up, it's hard to get new construction now.
Yep. So going into benefits of renting, right? So one, I would say easier to get the location that you want.
Much easier.
Much easier.
Much easier.
So here is another component to it that has to be spoken on. Home ownership's not for everybody, only because everybody doesn't necessarily want it. That's what it is, right?
It's a responsibility.
It's a responsibility. Not everybody wants it. So if you don't want to own a home, don't feel shameful for it. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. It's just you have to understand what works best for you. So when I go back to when I think of one of the main benefits to renting, in real estate, we have this thing called location.
Location, whether you rent
Now you got to pay a premium sometimes for location. True, but we're renting because, like as you would say, a lot of those developers, they buy those prime pieces of real estate in the best location. They develop the best things right next to it. So if you're renting, you have access to a lot of things because of the location. So if you're a person, like I said, one of the things that I would also add value to as a person is the lifestyle that you want to live, right? So if you want to be downtown Gainesville, right? Imagine trying to buy a house right now next to the University of Florida. Crazy price, right?
800,000.
But but you could rent one, and you can be in walking distance. You can go to all your favorite places downtown. You don't have to call an Uber or anything. Like that's walking down 5 minutes away.
What scares me about institutions getting involved with these 50-year mortgages, that they would take that convenience from a lot. And if that gets approved, I'm wondering, like, wow, will America become a place where if your parents didn't leave your house for the next 50 years, most people will be renting if this get passed? It's an idea, but I don't think it really favors one. Another good thing about renting besides this location, you're not responsible for it. When something goes wrong, you get to call your landlord. I get to say, so you got a plumbing problem.
You're right, but you also know we got to tell them, because most people don't realize this. It depends on how well the property manager and the landlord value the investment. Because just like you said, it's not, the refrigerator goes out, it's not your problem. But there's some landlords that'll be like, ain't my problem. You got to fix the refrigerator. I'll get you another user.
That goes back to your location.
Oh, 100%.
If you're paying premium price, that's an expectancy.
Yep.
But if you're not paying premium price.
And we talk about majority, right? Majority are not paying that premium price. They're just, because once again, cost of living and the cost of food is one of your biggest expenses, right? So majority of your income is going towards that. And if you're of the lower income, and especially if you're not low income with government assistance, right? So I'm talking specifically those who are just, I'm making it month to month, right? Yeah. And because I'm by the grace of God making it, the government say they won't owe me.
That's a lot. This over the amount, and the variable part of renting is you don't control it when it goes up.
Yeah,
that's a negative part of it.
So here's the limit. How much can it go up? Where's the limit? It's unlimited.
It's unlimited.
So I can't stop it at a certain point. Unlimited. I can't tell my landlord I can't afford
we've
that.
We've just experienced recently of rents going skyrocketed. So you can't, unless a lot of people band together and start crying, and then they stop the rent.
Let me give you a scenario.
It got out of control.
Let me give you a scenario, right?
As rent ran up, house prices went up.
So let's give a scenario. I'm making up the scenario and I'm making up the numbers, but let's assume, right, the average rent in Gainesville's like $1,500-$1,600, right? Mm-hmm. Average rent for 2-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom, and then all the rich people in New York, or normal people in New York, that's spending $6,000 or $7,000 in rent, right? And taxes got even crazier. They don't like the person that you just elected. It says, "Hey man, I'm moving to Florida. It's more feasible." So they come here and they're like, and we get an influx, the demand. So then the property says, it's got to be 3,000. But for them paying 5,000, they're like, oh, that's cheap. It's a win. And so they have a flood of all these people taking up all those prime locations, being willing to pay that price because it's still cheaper than what they're paying. But that person who is native from here, back to your whole point, you have developers, they develop this, they're expecting the influx of people moving in, which is why they build so many buildings. They're like, hey, there's going to be people coming in and we're going to accommodate them, but we're not going to make the new price. It's not for you who live here. The new price is for the ones who are coming here. So you're completely boxed out. So once again, you have that person who is simply making ends meet. And here's the thing. If you own the new construction luxury apartment right next to my apartment complex, and mine's been here for 30 years, you have a new one, right? And yours start at $5,000-$6,000. That justifies mine going from 15 to at least 27.
Same location.
Yeah, same location. Because if you can get 6, surely I can get $1,000 more than what I was doing before. And he says, well, you ain't made no adjustments, no upgrades. No. He built new construction over there. Proximity, location. That's what he did.
You have the same amenities. And that actually happened in Florida.
A lot.
So Florida used to be a very affordable place. And I know the current governor, some like him, some don't. But I think that's one part he dropped the goddamn ball on, because those influx of people really raised the rates up for the natives, and the wages have not matched that, because Florida is more of a tourism place.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of.
When's the last time you've been to Disney?
I'm from Florida probably about 17 years ago.
Listen.
And I wouldn't want to take a family there. It's just too much.
Listen. We have the Disney annual passes. I go to Disney, and I don't care if it's raining, if it's shining, if it's snowing, don't matter. There are a ton of people that are there, and they are from all over the world. I mean, all over the world. And here's the thing. Disney is expensive, and they continue to raise their price. And my wife's like, they just don't care. It's not affordable for a family. I was like, I was like, they're not wrong. I was like, there's price and demand. I was like, because if you have people who are spending, because once again, $60,000 to $100,000, because they stay in the Disney resorts where you're talking about $2,000 a night, $3,000, some of them $5,000 a night, all the minis. So there are families who come here and spend a weekend, and they spend $100,000. If they spend $100,000, they don't want to sit in the line for 2 or 3 hours because we've got so many people. So Disney keeps raising the price and raising the price and raising the price. So even though it's not affordable for you who lives in Florida, it's like there's people all around the world. Because going back to your point of this is a place for tourists. So even though it may not be affordable for someone who lives in Florida, when you talk about a person who's from California, from New York, from Chicago, from any of these other places where they have higher incomes and they're just visiting here, I'm going to adjust my budget for them. Because they frequent it so much. And once again, you're not going to have a day where Disney doesn't have hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world. So they're not saying, what can Floridians afford? Doesn't matter. Don't matter. I have to adjust my prices based on who's coming here. Does that make sense?
It makes sense for the tourism, but however, when it comes to the housing, you have to put a number on how much you allow rents to get out of control, because not the whole New York came. So that's why, like, Florida have a shortage of housing. That's why there's a shortage of housing. People leaving the New Yorks and the Californias because it got very expensive. So now these people are influxing somewhere. Mm-hmm. So yes, they're coming with the money, but you can't allow their money to supersede what the native
you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
But it's happening. It's causing a huge problem now. Mm-hmm. So now, where do these influx of people go that can't afford Florida? That's the next question that's brewing now. So Florida is going through a transitional phase.
I think they go to Georgia, don't they?
Well, but Georgia has the same problems as well.
Then they go to North Carolina.
When you have a migration contingency like that, do native Floridians want Florida to become like New York? New York is the business capital of the world. Florida is not. Mm-hmm. So what I'm not seeing is a transition of the state of Florida becoming a business capital like New It has the capabilities. Of course. It's beautiful here. Beaches, springs. It's lovely. The homes, are getting ridiculous stupid, but the government economics of Florida has not caught up to what New York was. It's the reason why New York was high like that. New York had a lot of business opportunity, and that's the mecca of business when you come to America.
But that goes back to the same point. You're having the issue with taxation in California and New York, where you have the those businesses who've decided, like, hey, it makes more sense economically for me to move the whole operation to Florida. And so many have done it throughout the years.
Yeah.
So once again, if you're doing that at, maybe it's not tomorrow, but you talk about, talk about 10, 20 years in the future. I mean, we already got Miami, you know what I mean? Where you talk about like,
mine is a mess now too.
Exactly. I was like, so if you can see it be there, it could quickly expand out into these other areas where it's like, hey, there's a lot of business happening. Same thing with Georgia, right? You go to Atlanta, it's busy. We got business.
But this is what you said. When you think of Georgia, can't nobody outside name nothing in Georgia but Atlanta. That's it. You hard pressed to find another city that somebody outside from the north or the west that knows it. And maybe Trump is right when he say the liberals do a bad job because of the taxation. Mm-hmm. Because of the taxation. There's high taxes in New York. There's high taxes here. But the only thing that may trigger is more wealthy people coming here. But when you have more wealthy people come here, that's that squeezy in.
Yep. You got to go out. You can't live in Gainesville anymore. You got to go out. And it's already happening, right? You can't live in Gainesville. You got to go to Archer. Now, Archer will expand. Yeah, you remember when it was cheap to live in Hot Springs and Alachua and Newberry? Them days gone.
They're gone.
You're talking about $1 million houses in all of those areas.
They are gone. So, you have and that's the thing about the liability of renting versus trying to owning. That's why the decision to make an acquisition of a home is a lot of economic thought, not this basic.
Yeah.
Not this basic.
You got to really think of, you got to position yourself for those who it fits the, so I will imagine two people, right? The person who's solo dolo, I'm just an individual. I don't know where I'm going to put roots. Man, rent's going to be the best thing. Listen, do it. If you are the person that says, hey, I've decided that this place is where I want to raise a family, be able to have, generations. Maybe I stay here until we have grandkids. It may behoove you to think about legacy and says, hey, how can I preserve the housing costs and the wealth to be able to pass down from generation to generation? Because last time I checked, they ain't making no more land.
They're not making no more land. And that's what's scary, that America may be becoming a land of only a few own all resources. So
you know what they're gonna
I don't know if we've been lied to all these years.
You know what they're gonna do?
Talking about a house is a damn asset.
But listen, this is what they're gonna do. Once all land's bought up and everybody's living in little pods, then they're gonna sell you virtual land. You put on those head goggles.
That's what the apartments are now.
Yeah.
They just pods, Yeah. It's scary. It's very scary. It's scary for the generation coming behind. Like, I can sit here and talk and say, I have my land, I have my housing, but for new kids being born, we got a serious problem.
Yeah. If I was to advise, a person, like I said, you solo dolo, you don't know where you're putting down our roots, continue to hustle, continue to grind, and
you got to out hustle these days.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And take advantage of the 12-month, the 12-month terms of a lease. Because then, once again, location, I can decide I'm going to live on this side, I'm going to live on that side, I'm going to live on this side. And it's just a variable cost that I'm willing to pay because I'm hustling anyways. You would have a beautiful experience. That's what I think. I think you will enjoy renting. I think you have a beautiful experience. You're not going to have the headache. You're not going to have the liability of fixing things, all of those things. And guess what? You can just move whenever you don't like the area anymore, experience new things.
You locked in 1 year.
Yeah, that's it.
1 year, you got a facility, pick up and go.
If you get in there just right, you might be able to sublease and says, hey, I'm only 6 months. Now I'm able to, because I got a great location, a place where people want to be. So I'm able to sublease and go find somewhere else.
And the liabilities of owning a home, and we talked about so much about the interest rate and fixed. That's just the one component. But the liability of the cost for tradesmen now is going up.
Scenario, right? So you take the 50-year mortgage, right? Because you want to save on payment, and then you find out one of your pipes burst in your plumbing. Now the city ain't gonna be like, oh, we understand.
I know.
No. They're gonna be like, that's a $14,000 bill.
Ooh,
14,000. I ain't got 14,000. Well, you're gonna need to make. You want a payment plan? You want us to shut it off? How would you like? How would you like?
It's not only that. At that point, your place become uninsurable.
Yep.
And once your place become uninsurable, all of a sudden now you get placed insurance that costs more than the retail of insurance.
Yep.
So the variable rate of your insurance going up and owning a home is crack-a-do. The variable rate of maintenance. I tell my daughter that it's okay to have a good handyman.
Oh yeah.
Don't overlook the handyman. Because it's important, because you're going to always have constant repairs. So taxes has gone up. That's another thing that you have to analyze too. The property taxes, that if you making up $400,000 houses, look what your local tax man doing. That could be a $400,000 house. That could be a $3,000 to $4,000 just in property taxes that real estate agent is not going to talk to unless he's a good one. But remember, his objective is, I got to sell a house.
Depending
the mortgage person.
And depending on when you got, the real estate agent don't understand nothing about anything other than the contract
for the house.
That's it. They don't understand all the other components of it. So back to what you're talking about. What happens when the AC goes out? What happens when the tree hits the roof?
And we're gonna leave with this question on answering your questions. And it's here. What will you do with the difference if you was renting? Instead of worrying about having all those emergencies, to take the benefit of renting, that your only really liability is rents going up. But if you don't have the upkeep of the house, you don't have the constant mechanical parts of a house. When I say mechanical parts, I'm talking about roof going bad, insurance companies making you get that roof. Plumbing go bad, you got to face that plumbing. Insurance companies are not trying to be on the hook. They're trying to make you keep things repaired so they won't pay a claim. So if you don't own a house, you don't have to have all these things. But when you own one, you have to. So that's the question I would like to end it with, is what would you do with the difference if you was renting with your money? And that's something to ponder. We know it's investments.
Yeah, leave it in the comments. Let us know where'd you put your money.
Where would you put your money at?
So
to prepare to get your house.
So if you were single man, 25, where would you put your money?
Single man, 25, no children.
No children.
Okay, because I don't believe in the U.S. current dollar, I'm going to stick with buying silver and gold as a saving utensil to force me to save. And I think the life insurance product, whole life dividend paying life insurance product, as far as saving for the possibility of transitioning to a bigger asset later, I will put it inside of that, because it's like a Swiss knife. It does many things that could be variables towards your life. If you become disabled, you can put disability on it. If you become a critical illness, you can have a critical illness. And most importantly, your money is fully liquid that you put into these contracts. And you need the liquidity in order to leverage to other investments. Now, are there other better investments out there with bigger rate of returns? But because you're 25, I'm assuming that I'm starting with wealth, unless I'm front loaded like a Lamar Jackson or NFL athletes or NBA ball players or hockey players.
No, you get to be a
musician, but I'm a regular old guy, right?
Yeah, you're right.
That's paycheck to paycheck. That my parents couldn't leave me nothing. I'm just like everybody else. I'm just starting out. That would be my choices, though they're safe conservative moves.
Here would be mine. Number one,
because real estate is there, but it's costly now.
Yeah, number one would be life insurance. Reason being is because at 25, it's going to be the cheapest I'm ever going to get it. As I get older, especially as a man, it's going to be more expensive. So I would rather lock it in, at 25, get time in the market that way. Secondly, what I would do is invest in myself, find some good books, find a skill, something that you can do. After investing in myself, I would then look for one or two things. If I can find an income producing investment, um, almost anything, right? Anything that will be income producing, or be able to partner with somebody who has a deal to where they'll let me come in on something that's income producing. But if I'm not able to find that, then I would default to like SPN 500 or something like that as a low risk investment of like let the market go. Now I would say this, right? My perception on it is when you invest in the S&P 500 or index funds like it, you're basically betting on the U.S. the U.S. economy.
Always flourish.
Yeah, you're just simply saying, I believe that the U.S. economy is going to be here the next 30, 40, 50 years. And if that is the case, this is going to be an investment that's going to be good. So that's the way how my mind would do it. So
Yeah,
it's kind of saying
index funds are good. If like I say, you have to learn to invest.
These are starting points.
These are the starting points.
Low risk starting points.
Low risk starting points that you may not need a financial advisor. You can call your average brokerage house and tell them you want an S&P 500, skip the middleman and go straight to it and invest. That's a long-term situation. There's a lot of things out there, but I like the idea of saying at 25 to invest in yourself. That's probably more important than everything else.
It's going to give you the biggest return.
It's going to give you the biggest return long term if you can see it. Invest in building your team. We mentioned the team earlier when you came out and said there were 5 people you would deal with. I think all those people are still relevant. So you mentioned a banker. You mentioned somebody that does mortgage or other banker. We mentioned an insurance agent. We mentioned a life insurance person. We mentioned a real estate person. We haven't mentioned a financial advisor. I particularly think that financial advisors sometimes just be great salespeople.
Above a financial advisor, for the guy who's 25, I would choose a great mentor. Find someone who's in the position where you want to be, because that typically may not cost you as much as the financial advisor.
Absolutely.
And be able to get you the wins that you need. Because here's the other part, right? At 25, you may not know how to tell if the financial advisor is a good one.
Is good or not.
Like, are you really my big? We've talked about this. When you say you're a financial advisor, I say one or two things. I was like, do you truly understand finances, or do you sell mutual funds? Those are not the same thing.
They're not the same.
So many financial advisors simply sell mutual funds.
And that's for another subject. So, but either way, it answers your question at the beginning of the show when you said, is it a good asset or a liability? Yep. And if you can go through the checkpoints of owning a home and say, I may not want that, you better pay attention to your numbers at that point, because you're supposed to be investing the difference. Yeah. And as long as you can get to that point, I think you'll be okay. Purchasing a home is the biggest decision that most of us make in our lives. It's needed unless you had generational wealth that somebody passes down to you when you were smaller.
I'll say this before, and I'll let you close it out. Whether you're 25 or you're 50, think about it now. That would be my advice. I would say, because I think on both ends, right? It's easy for that person who's 25 says that doesn't really apply to me. You're losing time in the market, right? And same thing is like, tell that person is 50, life's over, that don't really apply to me. No. Think about it now, because there's still something that you may be able to do, take advantage of it. And even if you don't see the benefits of it, you could be the person who sets the next generation up. You tee it up for the next generation. So whether you're 25 or you're 50, my advice would be think about it now.
Think about it right now. Time is the essence. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is Simon P., and I'm so glad Neil joined us today to help us out. This is Simon P. with Common Hood. We're out.